What a wild time to be following the NBA. And if you're a Warriors fan, buckle up because things are getting even crazier. While scrolling through the madness that is NBA Twitter, or X, depending on how current you want to sound, I stumbled upon something that honestly shocked me. Forget about Westbrook signing somewhere new or some team waiving a player to please a superstar. The real headline? The Golden State Warriors are now the most valuable franchise in the entire league, sitting at a jaw-dropping $11.33 billion. $11 billion. With AB, and over $300 million on top of that. We're talking about a valuation that exceeds what most of us thought any team in the NBA could ever be worth. I mean, the Lakers were the obvious favorite to take that title. They've got the legacy, the market, LeBron James, and were recently involved in a transaction that reflected their massive brand value. So when I heard they were sold just a little over their previous valuation, somewhere around $10 billion, I thought for sure they'd top the list. But no, it's the Warriors. A team that wasn't even a top seed last season, a team that had to fight through the play-in and still ended their run earlier than expected. That team? Most valuable in the league. And listen, it's not like I don't understand the hype. Steph Curry is still one of the most electric players in the game today. Watching him do his thing in preseason feels like witnessing magic. The guy moves like time slows down for him. Those quick trigger threes that leave his hands and just somehow drop in like the rim is calling the ball home. It's something you never get tired of watching. He's that rare kind of athlete who still makes your jaw drop after more than a decade in the league. In a sense, he's the NBA's version of prime Michael Jordan in terms of drawing power. And yeah, if I had to put my money on anyone extending their prime and staying relevant through their late 30s, even into their 40s, Steph would be at the top of that list. You start asking the question, where's that value really coming from? How does a franchise that didn't even make the Western Conference Finals last season leapfrog every other team in the league in terms of valuation? Are they pulling in that much revenue? Are the profits just that massive? Or is this another sign that the NBA is playing in its own kind of financial fantasy world, where numbers are inflated and returns don't necessarily have to match reality? Let's take a closer look at what's happening here. Other teams that recently changed hands can give us a bit of context. The Boston Celtics, for example, were just sold and are now valued at around $6.35 billion. Not a small number by any means, but they were also operating at a loss, somewhere in the ballpark of $88 million. That's a huge loss for a team that just won the championship. Their ownership group saw the writing on the wall. It was time to cash in while the value was high. Same goes for the Timberwolves. Minnesota's franchise value currently sits at $4.24 billion. But again, that's another team reportedly losing serious money, over $100 million last season alone. And they actually performed better on the court than Golden State last year. So again, how is this happening? Why is there such a gap between performance and valuation? Look at Portland, the Trail Blazers. They were bought by Tom Dundon for around $4 billion, and nothing's really changed since then. They're not a playoff threat. They're not suddenly drawing massive global attention. And yet the team's valuation is climbing. He's already up $250 million on paper. You can start to see a pattern here. It doesn't matter how good your team is. It doesn't even matter if you're making money. If you're in the NBA, your franchise value is going up. Period. So when we zoom back in on the Warriors, it starts to feel like we're watching a different kind of game entirely. Yes, they've got the Chase Center, and owning your own arena is a big deal. That puts them in elite company with teams like the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, the Lakers at Crypto.com Arena, formerly Staples, and the Nets with the Barclays Center. Stadium ownership is real estate. It's business opportunities, it's long-term growth, and in a lot of ways, it's what's separating the billionaires from the mere multimillionaires in the NBA ownership club. But even with all that, the number still feels inflated. It feels like we're looking at a bubble that keeps expanding. And you know what happens with bubbles? They eventually pop. Because if this is just about player star power and shiny arenas, what happens when Steph retires? What happens when Draymond calls it a career? What happens when the culture and identity that made this team so valuable over the last decade fades away? There's a case to be made that now might be the perfect time to sell. If you're Joe Lacob and Peter Guber and you're staring at a valuation north of $11 billion, you could wait a few years, push that price to 15 or even 18 billion by squeezing a couple more seasons out of this core and Chase Center events, and then cash out. It would be the ultimate business move. Buy low, sell high. And considering both Kent and Kirk Lacob are already involved in the franchise, with one reportedly set to take over as team governor and the other leading Santa Cruz and possibly rising into a front office role, the future might already be planned out internally. But plans change when the right check gets written. Of course, this is all speculation. No one said they're selling. Joe Lacob loves this team. He's deeply invested, not just financially, but emotionally. But again, the number is just too big to ignore. Even if nothing is official yet, the market might eventually make the decision for them. But while we're talking Warriors, there's also some drama bubbling beneath the surface, and it's not about ownership. It's about Jonathan Kuminga. The guy just got fined $35,000 for making inappropriate contact with an official. And while Coach Kerr came out to defend him and say he loves the passion, it raises a red flag. Because passion without control, that turns into ejections. That turns into suspensions. And if you're trying to develop a young guy into either a cornerstone or a valuable trade piece, the last thing you want is a reputation issue. Kuminga clearly wants more. More minutes, more responsibility, more respect. And he's playing like it. But if he ends up on the bench to start the season, that fiery energy could turn into frustration real fast. And here's the thing. He's being paid like a starter. We're talking over $20 million. You don't give that kind of contract to a guy unless you see him being in your long-term plans or as a high-value trade chip. If it's the latter, and the Warriors are serious about adding size and defense, then a deal with the Miami Heat for someone like Bam Adebayo starts to make a lot of sense. Kuminga could be that spark plug off the bench, a sixth man of the year candidate if he buys into the role. But if he goes the route of early career Draymond and lets emotion take the wheel, it could hurt his value and put the Warriors in a tough spot. We've already seen how that kind of thing can spiral. Just remember 2016, Game 5. Draymond lets the emotions get the better of him, gets suspended, and the next thing you know, the Warriors blow a 3-1 lead to the Cavs. One misstep can shift the momentum of an entire season. And look, it's not like Kuminga is the only thing on the Warriors' radar. Trade rumors are swirling everywhere. People are talking about Giannis, about the Bucks' decision to waive a guaranteed player just to sign both of his brothers and keep him happy. But honestly, that doesn't look like a guy who's going anywhere. Milwaukee seems committed, and he's clearly enjoying playing next to guys like Miles Turner. That trade scenario is losing steam fast. It's also worth noting that this time last year, people were saying Jimmy Butler to the Warriors was dead in the water. And they were kind of right. Not because Golden State didn't want him, but because Kevin Durant shut the door on a potential trade that could have changed everything. So as always, take these rumors with a grain of salt. Trades are messy. Contracts have to match. The fit has to be right. And at the end of the day, not every superstar wants to pack up and move across the country. What matters right now for Golden State is the present, the very near future, because they've got a game against the Clippers, and that game matters. Building momentum before the season starts is huge. Let's not forget what happened in 2016. The Warriors came out of the gate blazing, racked up one of the best starts in NBA history, and set the tone for the entire season. All it takes is a hot streak to shift perception, gain confidence, and roll into the regular season ready to dominate. And while everyone's eyes are glued to the long-term picture, franchise valuations, possible trades, the looming Steph Curry retirement window, there's an undercurrent happening with this Warriors team that could make or break the next 2 years. It's not just about how much the team is worth on paper. It's about whether that worth actually translates into results on the court. Because let's face it, no one's paying top dollar for a team that doesn't win. Not when the Steph era comes to an end. And that's exactly why the upcoming stretch is so important. The Warriors are at a crossroads. The roster is aging, the cap situation is tight, and the margin for error is razor thin. Every piece has to fit. Every young player has to step up. Every veteran has to stay healthy. And most importantly, the chemistry has to click from day one. You look at the rest of the Western Conference, and it's a battlefield. The Lakers, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Timberwolves, these aren't teams you can coast past. They're big, they're physical, and they're deep. That's exactly why the Warriors need size. That's why you hear talk about Quinton Post needing to be ready, not just in terms of basketball IQ, but physically. He can stretch the floor, sure, but when it comes time to bang with guys like Nikola Jokic, Anthony Davis, or even Daniel Gafford, finesse only gets you so far. That poster dunk from Donovan Clingan was a brutal reminder that physicality still runs the paint. And if Post is going to be anything more than a spot-up shooter, he's got to bulk up and learn how to hold his own down low. Because here's the reality. It doesn't matter how many three-pointers you can hit in today's NBA if you can't defend the rim, if you can't rebound, if you can't stop the ball from getting into the paint. That's where games are won in the playoffs. And it's not just the Nuggets or the Lakers. Teams like Houston are coming up fast with a wave of athletic, long, versatile bigs. Steven Adams, Clint Capella, Alperen Sengun. These are the types of players that expose your weaknesses fast if you're not prepared. That's why it's not enough to just roll out Steph, Clay, and Draymond and hope the magic is still there. The Warriors have to evolve. They need to adapt to what the league is now, not what it was in 2015. And let's be honest, the window is closing. This isn't about rebuilding in 5 years. This is about what can be done right now. These next 2 seasons could be the last real shot this core gets. Draymond's getting older, Clay is still figuring out his role post-injury, and Steph, while still absolutely elite, can't carry the load forever. That's why these young guys, especially Kuminga and Moses Moody, are so critical. They're not just role players anymore. They need to be legitimate contributors. Not someday, right now. Which brings us back to Kuminga. If he wants to be a starter, if he wants to be untouchable in trade talks, this is his moment. But he can't sabotage himself with texts, ejections, or body language that tells the league he's not mature enough for the big time. It's one thing to be fiery. It's another thing to be reckless. And if he keeps letting his emotions get the better of him, he risks becoming another what-if story. A guy with all the tools who never put it together at the right time. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. Whispers are swirling through the NBA world after news broke that the highly anticipated clash between the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers was abruptly canceled at the last minute. Fans who had packed arenas, sold out tickets, and tuned in from around the globe were left in shock as the game that promised fireworks, superstar showdowns, and high-stakes drama vanished from the schedule in a heartbeat. Sources close to the league, speaking under the veil of anonymity, suggest that the cancellation was not entirely unexpected, though details remain murky and unconfirmed. Rumors are already spreading among insiders that the decision may have been prompted by internal disputes, logistical nightmares, or even a sudden health-related issue affecting key personnel. Some speculate that league officials and team executives were forced into a behind-closed-doors negotiation that ultimately ended with the unprecedented annulment. The timing, coinciding with peak excitement for fans on both coasts, has sparked intense debate online, with social media platforms erupting in frustration, disappointment, and a fair share of conspiracy theories. The Warriors and Lakers, 2 of the NBA's most storied franchises, were expected to deliver a showdown of epic proportions. Steph Curry and LeBron James, the headline-grabbing superstars, were poised for a duel that many pundits had already dubbed a potential classic in the making. The sudden cancellation has left not only fans, but also analysts scrambling to piece together the real story behind what insiders are cautiously calling an unprecedented scheduling anomaly. Adding fuel to the rumor mill, whispers suggest that the league is considering compensatory measures, possibly rescheduling the matchup or offering other forms of restitution to fans, though no official statement has clarified the path forward. Meanwhile, speculation continues to mount that tensions within team management or even behind-the-scenes disagreements over player availability could have triggered the decision. In locker rooms from Oakland to Los Angeles, murmurs of confusion and disbelief are reportedly circulating, with players allegedly learning about the cancellation as they arrived for pregame routines. Whether this last-minute annulment will have lasting repercussions for the season or simply go down as a bizarre footnote in NBA history remains anyone's guess. But for now, the buzz is undeniable. Fans are left hungry for answers. Analysts are furiously hypothesizing, and the NBA world is abuzz with one unavoidable question. What really happened to the Warriors versus Lakers showdown that never was? Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.